and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan, and it is time for a Gameweek 20 episode of the 100 Experts. Yes, guys, we are going to be seeing what the transfer moves, captaincies, and chip usages are of the top FPL managers this game week. So if you guys enjoy this one, make sure you drop a like. Do subscribe if you're new around here. Let's get started. Okay, so first of all, a big thank you to the 100 FPL Experts, pundits, content creators, and contributors to this series. We really couldn't do it without these guys, and particularly, we are still a couple of days off the deadline, and it's also a really busy period for a lot of people at this time of year, so massive thank you and a great shout out to these guys. They really are legends for helping us out each week. Let's see what they're up to. So out of what our 100 expert managers, we've got 28% making one transfer this week, 26% making two transfers, and 2% making three transfers. So what we see here is that our experts are just as likely to make one transfer as they are to make multiple transfers. That is increased, emphasized even more by the fact that we've got 10% of our managers using their wildcard. Of course, Game Week 20 is your last opportunity to use your first wildcard. If you do not use your wildcard, you will lose your wildcard. We will, of course, get a new one in Game Week 21, but for now, the first one needs to be used this game week. So that's why we are seeing the few remaining experts who did hold on to their wildcard are going to be using it up this game week to make their transfers. We have also got 34% of our managers not making a transfer at all this week. We have got a real split this week in terms of strategies, ways to attack this game week, which is really interesting that we're going to share with you in a moment. But the general trends are you either go in all in, make multiple transfers to sort out your team, or you just kind of leave it as it is. That seems to be the two schools of thought among our experts this week. Go crazy or do nothing. Which one will it be? It's going to be up to you. It's going to be team dependent, as we like to say. So first of all, having a look at the most popular Game Week 20 transfers in the world, this is what we have. And we don't actually have too much Game Week 20 transfer data so far because not too many people have made their transfers. I know deadline is only on Saturday, but still, not too many people are making their transfers yet. You can kind of understand why only half of the games in the Premier League have taken place at time of recording for Game Week 19. So maybe a little bit more information to be gathered. But as we often see with the Game Week 20, well, any game week early transfers that are being made, they are often a little bit reactionary. It seems often that, if there's not many transfers made, it's usually because most people are going to make their transfers later, and the people making their transfers early often just pick the players who scored the most points last game week, and we are definitely seeing that trend so far here. So there is a little bit of correlation between these transfers and our expert transfers, but maybe not as much as you would hope. So let's start off with the players from this list that our experts also like, and that is Garnacho, Trent, Bowen, and Haaland. These four players are being transferred in by our experts and the general player base alike. So only 4 out of 12 that have any significant interest. So I guess that's something. You can definitely understand why these players are on this list. Garnacho, obviously, as a Manchester United player, 25% of all FPL managers are Manchester United fans. It's absolutely crazy. So you can understand why, a Man United player does well. There's going to be a lot of people jumping in on them. But there's definitely some appeal in the likes of Trent, Bowen, and Haaland this week. Outside of that, actually, it's gone the other way, and a lot of these players that we see on this list, our experts are actually selling, not buying. So Solanke, Kudus, Wood, Alvarez, and Son, there's no interest in any of these players among our experts, and some of these players are also being sold. We're going to find out in a minute. Solanke in particular, despite being the fact that he is the most transferred player in the world right now for Game Week 20, he is actually being sold by our experts. And yeah, you're going to see just how many of our experts are selling Solanke this week in just one moment. You can definitely understand why the likes of Kudus and Son are not interesting our experts at all, because they have one more game before they disappear off to the AFCON and Asian Cup respectively for Kudus and Son. So, you're buying them for one game week really doesn't really seem worth it, does it? Unless maybe you're wildcarding in Game Week 21. And of course, Chris Wood, yeah, he did very well in Game Week 19. Maybe a knee-jerk on that one. I don't know. I think he could be an okay transfer, I guess, for the price, but he's not the kind of player that our experts will just naturally just pick up automatically. But let's move on. There is not too much correlation between the overall transfer trends and the experts. So we need to figure out what are the experts doing. What are the right moves? If these aren't the right moves, what are? Well, okay, we've got a couple of Liverpool players on this list. Salah and Darwin leading the line as the most popular transfers out. I think you can probably guess why Salah is being transferred out. But if you do need to know, there may be a certain other expensive player that our experts are looking to bring in at this game week. And you need to find the money somewhere. But of course, Salah and Darwin playing against Newcastle next. Salah a little bit disappointing in game week 19. And Darwin, despite his goal, he's just not shown any consistency for months now. So definitely a player that should be on everyone's chopping block right now. If you have Darwin, I don't think he is a player that you need to keep. I think he's quite easy to sell. Now, Solanke is a little bit more difficult to sell, but granted, the fixtures coming up aren't quite as good as they perhaps have been in the past. So I think he's an okay hold, and most of our experts are looking to hold Solanke this week, but there are still a few looking to remove him if they are looking to bring in a new forward in their team. Now, Trippier has some poor scores recently, but also has terrible fixtures in the next three. Liverpool, Man City, and Aston Villa. That is not a great run of fixtures. You can definitely understand why Newcastle players are being sold. Archer is being sold for many people restructuring their FPL teams right now. Isak, another Newcastle player that might need to be sold. And Son was an interesting one. Didn't expect to see anyone selling Son, but a few people actually are selling him one game week early, again to fund another move. And Tsimikas, of course, he's injured long term, so yeah, he has got to go. So in terms of the most popular transfers in, well, look who's back. This guy is back. Erling Haaland. Lots of our expert managers are planning to get Haaland back into their FPL team. Now, right now, Erling Haaland is doing individual training. He's not expected to start tonight. But a lot of Manchester City fans and in the knows and insiders are expecting that Haaland could be back for game week 20. And that's a game at home against Sheffield United. And if there's ever a captaincy option for Erling Haaland, well, against Sheffield United, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? So if Haaland is declared fit for game week 20, and it looks like he might be, well, he is definitely the priority transfer in. And that is reflected by our experts here. 36 bringing him back into their team after the injury and the blank that we've seen in the last couple of weeks. We've got Jared Bowen here as well. 11 transfers in for him. So he's the popular pick outside of Erling Haaland, with maybe some people looking to restructure their midfield. You can see a few midfielders being brought in here as well. Richarlison is the other popular one there alongside Bowen. I think both of those midfielders are absolutely great. And our experts definitely are slowly bringing in these players. We've seen Bowen and Richarlison have some popularity over the last few game weeks, and I think that's going to continue for a couple more weeks as people look to bring in new midfielders in their team, with Salah and Son disappearing off to their international tournaments. We're going to be looking for new midfielders, and I think Bowen and Richarlison should be top of your list. Garnacho represents a nice cheap option if you do need to go cheap with your new midfielder, I guess, or maybe move into an eight-man attack. If you want to do that, Garnacho definitely serves that purpose. Trent is obviously going to have interest with his great form recently. And an interesting differential, 3 of our experts are actually looking to bring in Phil Foden against Sheffield United this week. This is a good fixture, I guess, so why not go in on another Man City attacker too? It looks pretty good, doesn't it? So here are some suggested transfers based on the data. And remember, guys, it is probably wise to wait and see about any more information we can gather about Erling Haaland. And fingers crossed, we might even be able to get some early team news for you guys as well. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. But here are the transfer moves. So you could go Darwin to Haaland. I think that's pretty easy. Darwin is probably not a player you want to own long term, particularly with Luis Diaz and Diogo Jota now coming back into fitness and getting some minutes and performing quite well from the bench for Liverpool in game week 19. So pretty easy sell there for Haaland. Solanke is a tougher sell, but if that's the only way you can get to Haaland, then I guess you're just going to have to do it, unfortunately. We've got Archer here as well. If you want to restructure your team and downgrade Salah to a cheap midfielder, maybe Garnacho, for example, and then upgrade Archer all the way to Erling Haaland, I think that works pretty well as well. So that is a different option for you guys. If you want to do things slightly differently, maybe go for a 3-man attack, particularly if you've got the likes of Watkins and Solanke, you're not comfortable with selling them. Well, maybe your third forward is Archer. Maybe that's the guy who needs to upgrade to Haaland instead and go for 3 forwards instead of, 5 midfielders, I guess. If you're looking to sell Salah, well, Bowen and Richarlison are the standout options. They really, really are. Like I said, you could go all the way down to Garnacho, but it does seem like Bowen and Richarlison, we are seeing a steady trend, a steady trickle of top managers bringing in these players. So very soon, the likes of Bowen and Richarlison, I think, are going to be the expert template players. So if you are looking for new midfielders, these are the two guys. Both in form, both playing as a central striker in their teams, both of their teams are scoring goals quite well at the moment as well. So they're always going to be involved. So good form, out of position midfielders, playing as forwards in good attacking teams. What's not to like? They're really great FPL picks. But also Trippier to Trent. Yeah, if you fancy doing Trippier up to Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think that's an absolutely fine move as well. Newcastle in poor form with poor fixtures. You probably don't want to have that much money invested in a Newcastle defender right now. 6.9 million seems a bit crazy amount of money to spend on a Newcastle defender at this present moment. So yeah, moving him to Trent is definitely wise. Other options include Arsenal defenders as well, I guess. Maybe you could go for an Aston Villa defender as well. Those are kind of your options if you do want to sell Trippier this week. And that was kind of substantiated by some of the weaker expert trends that maybe we didn't display in this video. And finally, captaincy. This is where things get a little bit interesting. Yeah, we have got a game week where no player is above 50% in terms of captaincy. There is so much debate about who should be your Game Week 20 captain. Now, we do have a trend. If you are able to get Haaland back in your team, if he is declared fit, if he is declared starting, if we get a leak, something like that, then I think he is going to be more popular than 47%. But at this moment, well, we don't have the full picture. We don't have the full information. It's very, very difficult to assemble a perfect representation of, what our experts are thinking. So we do try and go early with these videos. We're only 2 days early, really. We've only really got 2 full days until the deadline anyway. So it's not like we're super early, but because all the game weeks are so tight together, because we haven't quite got the information about Erling Haaland quite yet, it's very, very difficult to say exactly who is the best captain. And our experts are obviously struggling with this decision as well, with many of them, when they were giving me their data, sort of saying, if this happens, I'll do this. If this happens, we'll do this. So we tried to create a balanced video here that kind of represents all different scenarios that you guys can work off of. But Haaland is, despite all of that, still the most popular captain of the game week at 47%. But it is not a representation of all of our FPL experts, because Salah is coming in at 29% there as well, which is pretty decent numbers as well, to be fair. That's nothing to ignore. So 29% is still significant against a Newcastle team that are struggling, particularly away from home, although also struggling at home at the moment. You can definitely understand why you might want to go in on Salah against Newcastle. It's really not such a bad shout, and I know a lot of people are selling Salah in order to get Haaland, but I think that's one to worry about. Salah could go off against Newcastle. He really could. So don't think he's a bad captain necessarily. But we do also have Son here at 14%. That's not too bad either, really. That's still pretty significant, 14%. So he's not like he's super differential or anything like that. I think Son is probably the differential captain, but it's nothing crazy. This is not an insane differential. This is not something that you will be doing alone. So Son, with his good form, last game before the Asia Cup, can we go for one more bang on Son before he disappears off? Hey, maybe that's going to be a good move. Maybe it could work. We've got Watkins against Burnley. I don't know. I feel like I've been hurt and stung by Watkins too many times against newly promoted teams. Remember, he blanked against Luton and Sheffield United, and I captained him in both of those games. It didn't work out, but maybe this time will be different. Well, 5% of our experts seem to think so. So Watkins against Burnley, a few people going for him. I've also got 2% on Bowen, which I didn't really expect him to see him as captain material necessarily, but I mean, I guess why not? You could do worse, I suppose. Palmer, though, on his return to Premier League football against Luton, that could be interesting. That is a kind of an interesting one, isn't it? On penalties, obviously a super creative player, and might be seeing Nkunku back in the team and doing the business that way. Maybe Palmer can help create for him. We know Palmer is a very creative player, so that could be pretty good. I think it's an interesting captain shout, but I don't know. How comfortable are we in captaining a 5.6 million player? I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me for some reason. I guess that's psychological. What do you guys think about that one? Is Palmer a genuine captain shout? I don't know. And we have got one 1%er here who I'm not going to put on the screen, but I mean, I still think it's interesting to see what super differentials our experts are going for. And yeah, one person is going for Saka as well, which, again, don't know how I feel about that one. Saka, to me, is not usually captain material. Kind of like Bowen as well. They're just nice tick-along players rather than ever going to get some serious hauls, whereby maybe some of these other players, you know, Haaland, Salah, Son, even Palmer, have been shown in the past to be able to get those huge FPL scores that can revolutionize your game week. And that's kind of what you're hoping for with your captain, I guess. But yeah, if you want consistency, Saka may be a solution, although, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, guys, these are the captains. Like, there is a huge debate among experts on who is the best captain. So I'd be interested to hear some of your thoughts. Can you guys settle the debate in the comments section? Who is the best captain and why? Who are you going for? And I need an explanation as well. I want to get that conversation going, and I'm still not totally sure myself who I'm going to captain. So I'd love to get some of your feedback, and maybe you can help influence my decisions and some of the other people who watch these videos, maybe help them out as well. We're all a community at the end of the day. Let's give each other a helping hand. That's going to be the end of this video, a return of the 100 Experts video. If you did enjoy this, make sure you do drop a like, and we'll make sure we drop this for future game weeks as well. Do subscribe if you are new around here as well. If you want to check out yesterday's video, buy, sell, keep, avoid, feel free to do so as well. But aside from that, thank you again for watching, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.